Hey flower friends, welcome to this week's DIY segment here at Flowers for Dreams. Today we are dealing with a really fun moody palette of peaches and browns with a touch of cream. So we have some fun seasonal elements such as this Pampas grass. Now Pampas grass we sort of wait all year for because it has this beautiful silvery plume. Now if you're a hoarder florist like I am, we will use Pampas grass for an event or something, and then we will put it back in the cooler and hold it as long as we possibly can, because this also makes a really great Christmas or holiday element. So it's something that I can put in a tree, but it will shed. So what's going to happen with the Pampas grass is that it's going to continue to bloom out. Those blooms, you can see a few of them sort of floating around here right now, will sort of, the little seeds will sort of fly away like dandelions. So you can make a million wishes with this, or you can buy yourself some Aquanet and you can spray it with hairspray, and that will hold all of those little seeds in on this. So that's a pro tip. So if you have an issue with your Pampas grass shedding a little bit, take some of your Aquanet, your White Rain, whatever you got, old-fashioned hairspray, just spray it and that will hold it together just like it does for your dew. So we've got that going on. You can see I'm floating. You can see it all, it's snowing in here. But if you don't want that to happen in your home, spray it with some hairspray. So we're going to be using this beautiful Pampas grass, and then next up we have a foliage that is called Copper Beech. Now Copper Beech is a really great foliage that actually has a natural brown coloring to it like this. It's really fantastic this time of year, and this is when we get the fresh Copper Beech. Now all year long you can get preserved Copper Beech and pretty much looks the same. They also dye it to be burgundy or plum. They can give it some green tint as well, but this is the natural color of this foliage. We're going to be using this Copper Beech to give us that fall feel, even though this is the natural shape and color of that foliage. So it's going to give us that beautiful chocolate brown, and then that's going to lead us into this gorgeous peach side of our palette. So this is almost like Neapolitan ice cream, you know? So when you think of a theme or a color story for your arrangements or for your inspirations, you can look at those things like the stripes of Neapolitan ice cream. You can see here that I've got my vanilla, I've got my chocolate, and I've got my berry flavor all lined out here. Now if you wanted to go a little bit more pink, you can do that. I went peach because I wanted to play a little bit more on a subtle fall tone. So I've got these great Calla Lilies, right? This is an Auckland Calla. It's fantastic peachiness is right there in the hue of the throat. So we don't often get to use Calla Lilies. You know, they have a nice longevity to them, but they are a little bit pricey, so I am spoiling us this week with these wonderful callas. And then to balance that out, our cheap flower this week is the Gladiolus. Now Gladiolus give a big show for not a lot of money, so you get a nice linear element that can bloom out to be this beautiful color punch. You can see that right there, you guys. Isn't that gorgeous? It looks like a Sunday morning Bellini, you know, just looks like brunch on a stem. I'm just so excited about this color. It's really fantastic. So let's get started by cleaning all of our floral. Now what we're going to do today is I'm going to create this holding it in my hand because of these elements. It's going to be more of a linear arrangement, and then we're going to just give it all one chop and drop it into there. So we're going to chop and drop today, you guys. So I'm going to set my base to the side so I have a little more workspace here. So with Gladiolus, what you want to do is you want to take the tip, you want to snap it like a bean. So if you're cleaning beans or something like that, you just want to go ahead and snap off that tip. That's going to promote positive growth and positive development in the developed blooms here. The tips will never really fully develop. So if you see a little bit of a peekaboo of floral in there, that's probably going to bloom out, and then it is going to continue to bloom up the stalk, right? So as this stalk progresses throughout the week, and when you go to change your water, you might need to clean off the dead blooms at the bottom to help it just keep blooming up the stalk. So then we're going to shuck this like corn. This is a very farm flower, so we're going to shuck this like we do with our corn or our sweet corn. Just pull back on these beautiful foliages that are here on the stems. You can see that. Now this is something you can grow in your garden here, so if you have Gladiolus, you can cut those all summer long. They are a bulb. They are a bulb that you have to dig up like dahlias. You have to dig them up, bring them in, put them in a cool, dry spot for the winter, let them dry out. You replant them in the springtime. So you can't let these bulbs winter over in the Midwest, but you can grow them if you're due diligent. You can dig those bulbs in the fall, get them up out of the ground, put them in a basement or maybe a warm garage or something like that. So like you can see here, just going to snap that bean off there. I'm going to do the same thing with this guy here. Snap it off. crack, how satisfying. And then I'm gonna go ahead and shuck my stalk, just get that foliage off of there, right? This is the same type of thing, you know, with this foliage, we don't want this in the water. So we're just gonna go ahead and eliminate it now. So here with our callus, we've got this beautiful calla, it's got a gorgeous throat. There is something you can do with callus if you wanna enhance them just a little bit, you can reflex them like a rose. You can peel them back over themselves if this is a little bit more the style you want. When I'm doing Gatsby parties or Art Deco looks, it's sometimes really fun to expose the throat. This sort of gives you a different shape to the calla. I just like the natural sort of shape of callus, and plus it's got a beautiful upward line that I want to really exacerbate. Also, another way to open up a calla is if you take this flap, the two flaps overlap here in the front. You can see that, and you can just take one fold and you can just get it outside of the other one, and that's going to help open up the throat of your callus. So if you can reverse the folds there, then you can get a little bit more of that throat exposed, just to see a little bit more of the color that's down in there, especially if they're really tight. You can unfurl that, get it outside the other one, and they're going to hold each other open, so you can see we got a little bit more of this calla exposed there. Now, callus also can sometimes have a real bend in their stem. Some of them are real extreme. Now, what you can do, because this is such a water-heavy stem, is you can massage this stem to sort of move the molecules of water inside of it, just to sort of straighten it out if you need to. Now, don't do this too hard. You don't want to bruise it, you don't want to kink it, and you don't want to bend it. You just lightly apply pressure from your forefinger and your thumb and just give it a nice rub. I know, don't you wish that you had somebody special in your life that was doing this to your feet right now? Me too. So here we are. I'm just going ahead and I'm just going to sort of massage out some of this curvature that's going on there, just to sort of straighten my stem just a little bit. So I'm just going to give this a little extra love, just like I'm going to have somebody do for me this evening, just a little extra love, because I deserve it. I'm on my feet all day. So here we are. I'm just sort of really straightening that out. You can see, you guys, how that worked. There's still a slight bend there. If I worked it a little bit longer, we could get that to straighten out pretty well, but that's going to give me a better line. So here with my foliage, I'm going to look for the pieces that I can use. I'm going to stem split if I can. I'm going to take this off. I'm just going to get this all ready to go. I can probably use this as a little guy just to fill in. Now, because I know that I'm going to have some really long, sort of gorgeous lines to this arrangement, especially with this pampas grass, I'm going to go ahead and try and leave this as long and tall as I possibly can to sort of balance out all this other linear action I'm going to have in this arrangement. So here I am, just sort of stem separating this so I can get this beautiful foliage all ready to go for my handheld arrangement today. Now, this is maybe a little wonky of a piece, but we'll see how it plays out, and I can always edit it after I am done. So once I have my Copper Beech all sort of separated, now you might have some larger pieces. I've got a few small ones here to work with, so I'm just going to utilize them to the best of my ability. Now here with this Pampas grass, obviously the scale of this is too large for just one insertion here. So if you had a whole bunch of this, it would be really beautiful in a very large statement base. But because I only have the one stem, we're gonna look for places in here where, you guessed it, we can stem separate. So just go ahead, pull these laterals back, and you can expose the stalk inside there. It's much skinnier than the lower portion of this stalk, and I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna take this tip right there. So that's gonna be my starting point. Then I'm gonna look at what other pieces I can use here. There's gonna be some long linear elements here that I can just sort of utilize. I can take off these bottom pieces and have a really nice floofster there. So I'm just gonna sort of assess all of this material and remove some of this lower stuff that could be down in my water. Now this is the labor of love with this stuff, you guys, so you're gonna have to take a little time with removing some of these seeds, etc. But it's going to be worth it in the long run. So here you can see I'm just folding back all of this beautiful grassiness, trying to decide where the best place to stem separate again is. So I'm going to go in here. I'm just going to give this a clip, see what I come out with. There we go. I've got a beautiful palm there. And I'm just going to go ahead, try and remove some of those seeds. Now, some of this might end up in your water if you get a little impatient like I do. That's gonna propagate that decay. So what you want to do is you want to try and remove as much of it as you can, but if you have some of it in the water, just be changing that water a little bit more frequently and you should be just fine. So here we are. I've got this little stalk there, this nice lateral, and then I think maybe for this last piece, I'm just going to go ahead and leave it as long as it is. So you can see that I've got some beautiful wave to it there. It's going to add some nice linear elements to this. So I'm going to begin by holding this piece in my hand. Next up, I'm going to add to it my Gladiolus. So I've got this between my thumb and my finger right here, right where my grasp is. Imagine this right here on the top of your hand, that's where your vase neck is going to be, okay? So this pressure against your hand is really where, when you cut this arrangement and you put it in your vase, you want to replace the tension of your hand with the neck of the vase. So here we are. I'm just sort of imagining this in the vase like we would do. So I've got my nice angle going on there. And then maybe I'm going to start with my Gladiolus. So let's pull these into frame. And I'm just going to begin with this beautiful Gladiolus. Now, if you can, get a little bit of an angle here as you're sort of stacking these elements in your hand, right? So I'm just sort of crisscrossing ever so slightly here. If it is a little bit too long and unmanageable, you can shorten it up a little bit for workability, right? But don't shorten it up all the way. Just take a little bit off at a time if it's a little heavy or if it's not doing what you want. Here I'm going to lay this third piece there right across the middle, so you can see I still have some crisscrossing patterns going on down low. Then I'm just going to layer on some of this great other Pampas grass. So you can see here, I'm just going to sort of lay that in there. I'm building this beautiful stack, right? This is sort of a stacked linear arrangement. I've crisscrossed these pieces here, and then I'm just going to go ahead and add in my calla. So let's put in a nice, beautiful calla there at the top. You can see maybe these stems are a little bit long. I'm hitting the table with them, so I just want to remove them for some ease here, and I'm just going to keep on adding these callas. So I'm creating some layers and some stacks here as I'm working my way down this careful arrangement. Now, if this is looking too flat for you, what you can do is you can add in some of this Copper Beech at this point. Just lay it in there to space out some of your blooms, right? So this is creating these stacked layers as we're working our way down the stalk. And this is also going to add a little bit of bulk so that when I go to lay the callas in there, there's some separation between these pieces so that way I can maybe get a little bit better definition out of my blooms. I think I actually might add one more piece of Copper Beech right in here. So I've got this Copper Beech, I'm grasping this right here, and you can see that I'm just going to lay my other calla right against that, okay, trying to keep that forward motion. I've got one more little piece of Pampas grass. I'm just going to lay it right down here in the front, you guys. So there we go. So far, so good. Now I've got some shorter pieces of Copper Beech that I've been sort of reserving here. I'm just going to pick through this. I've got this little guy. Remember how I saved that? Wonderful. Absolutely loving it. And then we can add our last little bits to the back. So if you turn this over, you can see we've got these gorgeous sort of blooms coming up the back. Maybe we can just sort of assess if we want to put it up the side to create some depth. So I'm just trying to layer this on around the back. So then here we've got this beautiful stacked arrangement. So what you can do is, if you get to this point and your neck might be a little bit large for the size of stems that we have here, what I'm really banking on is that the neck of all of this foliage is going to really rest in that vase hole. So I need to cut this so it will fit into my vase. So have that handy, have your water in it, because once you cut your floral, you really want to get that into the water almost as soon as you cut it. So we're just going to go almost directly into our water. I'm just going to bring this a little bit closer. I'm going to move my stems to the side here. All right, so we can see where it's going to be. Now I can already tell that that is going to be a little too tall for the neck of my vase here. So what I'm going to do is, while I'm still holding this, I'm going to go ahead and trim off about another 1/4 inch, maybe 1/2 inch here on a few of these stems, just to make sure that I get it down in there deep enough, because once I release my hand, there's no going back, right? So you can just sort of lower it into the water, stand it in the vase. Before you let go, see if it's where you want it. This is still a little too tall. So what I'm going to do, you guys, is I want to take this out. I'm going to go ahead and remove a little bit more. So this is sort of, we have to sort of really assess here. You don't want to take off too much in the beginning, because you can never put that back on, but you can always edit it to remove some of that. So I'm just going to go ahead and lower this into my vase. And here you can see, once I've got it laid in there, I can adjust and fluff as needed. But there I've got this beautiful stacked fall arrangement. I created this in my hand. I'm turning out some of these beautiful stems so that I can see them towards the front. I can change the faces of these by adjusting ever so slightly if something shifted. So you can turn those gently, and then you have this gorgeous fall Neapolitan peach and cream with a touch of chocolate.